Somebody was saying, he sleeps with his staff and his interns, right? I did not know that. And I got somebody saying, don't give him your phone number. He will sext you in the middle of the night. And I was like, okay, I will not.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to Here's the Scoop from NBC News. I'm Yasmin Vasugian. Today on the show, rumors of sexual misconduct about former California Congressman Eric Swalwell had allegedly been circling Capitol Hill for years, but those were never verified. We talked to the former elementary school teacher turned social media influencer who helped bring them to light. Plus, President Trump says that the leaders of Israel and Lebanon have agreed to a 10-day ceasefire after their first talks in over 30 years. Could this mark the beginning of the end for the war with Iran? Up first, though, you may not know her name, but you may have seen her in your social media feeds.
Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. One voice, please. Oh, she just said that. So go ahead. Catch a bubble.
So that's Arielle Fodor, better known as Mrs. Frazzled. A few years ago, the former elementary school teacher started using her teacher voice and gentle approach to do political satire.
Thumbs up or thumbs down? Is Signal a secure, encrypted military communication system? Yes or no? No.
Her commentary gained her 1.4 million followers on TikTok and got the attention of political candidates, including former Congressman Eric Swalwell. When he jumped into the California governor's race, Arielle posted that he, quote, acts like a normal human and not a robot. And that is when her DMs blew up. What came next ultimately led to Swalwell's withdrawal from the race and resignation. An attorney for Eric Swalwell says he, quote, categorically and unequivocally denies each and every allegation of sexual misconduct and assault that has been leveled against him. So, how did Mrs. Frazzled bring about this political reckoning? For that, I have Mrs. Frazzled with us, also known as Arielle Fodor. Hi, Arielle.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Oh my gosh.
It is so good to have you on. I've been watching your videos back to back in preparation for this interview. So I'm all read in and watched in on the awesome offering that you give to the world on a daily basis, it seems, on your socials. I want to talk about how you got there first before we get into why it is we're talking today. You were a kindergarten teacher, which comes across in every video that I've seen. Now you're a political influencer. How did you make that transition? Like, what happened there?
I really just started out because I was at a school that really talked about social justice a lot, and we were learning all kinds of things about the intersection of education with social justice, and by extension of that, politics, because everything that happens in a school is imposed on the school by a school board or a board of directors if it's a private school or a charter school even, so, or the state or the federal government. So teaching in and of itself is political. So in 2019, 2020, I started posting to social media about things that I was learning and about things that were connections. And of course, we saw the murder of George Floyd that summer, and that was really when I got my start on social media. So it was really a pretty seamless transition to talk about these types of things. One evening, we got finished with our teaching kindergartners on Zoom, and we started saying, wouldn't it be funny if we talked to different people like our kindergarten students? And we started like riffing and doing it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I know just who needs to hear this. And I started doing that shtick with Donald Trump and other politicians and public figures. And it was kind of like a little lighter reprieve in between talking about heavier topics. And I specifically cover education news and policy updates when I'm not doing this. So yeah, it's been a long journey. That's how I got here.
I want to talk about why we have you on the show today, which is what is going on with Eric Swalwell, because you have supported other Democratic politicians in the past, right? You supported Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris as well. But then you decided to post about Congressman Eric Swalwell and his campaign in running for governor of the state of California. And immediately when you started posting about this, you started getting messages about your support for him. What were you being told?
Right off the bat, I got really not normal messages. I got somebody was saying, he sleeps with his staff and his interns, right? I did not know that. And I got somebody saying, don't give him your phone number. He will sext you in the middle of the night. And I was like, okay, I will not. And then one of my personal friends just kind of said, he's not a good guy. Like, you need to be like really wary of this. And I was like, okay, noted. But I had already scheduled an interview with this guy, so in person. So I was like, I will keep an arm's distance, but you hear a lot of things. I mean, my personal friend's story, of course, I took seriously, but you hear a lot of things, even though I've not received a warning like that about any other politician ever. I still just, was like, who's to say? I don't know.
Well, let me say this first. An attorney for Swalwell has said that he, quote unquote, categorically and unequivocally denies each and every allegation of sexual misconduct and assault that has been leveled against him. But what I think is interesting about this, Arielle, is being someone who also has a presence online as I do, you get a lot of comments, right? You get a lot of conspiracy theories. You get a lot of folks saying, this is what's happening with this person. This is a bad person. And you can't take it all at face value, right? So how did you know or come to understand that this actually was different?
As the campaign continued on, I just kept hearing more things. And from people closer and closer to me, people who worked on the Hill, friends that had been staffers, or people that I had met through just being in this space who are staffers. And at one point, a congressperson. I mean, I was freaked out. I didn't want to do this anymore because I was like bringing this up to people, and they would say, yeah, that's just how the Hill is. So that was what was flagged, was like, everybody's sleeping with everybody, but he's like, it's worse with him, and that's gross, and everybody knows not to talk to him.
This is what people were telling you.
Yes, over and over. And I was like, oh my God. I mean, it was
and
like
this was all online?
No.
Arielle, this was all online, or these were actually conversations that you were having now?
Conversations in person. At this point, once things took off, people would be like, oh, I see Swalwell's running in your state. And they would start to talk to me, people that I knew, people I'm friends with. And I was just like, we have this is crazy. What do you mean this is just how it is? It can't be how it is.
So what did you do next?
I started trying to get other people to talk about it. I had found some things. I got a little obsessed about it, but I had found some things that were like half reported a while ago that I suspected was Swalwell, but didn't know until later that it was. But I was just gathering all this information, and I was like, will somebody else do something about it? Everybody I've ever known who has any proximity to politics or journalism or the media, I was getting a message from me being like, hey, have you heard this? Is it going to come out? Is anybody going to do anything about it? Or is he going to
You were asking these questions at this point.
Yeah, and nobody wants to tell a content creator. Like, nobody's like going to feed a content creator what I have come to find out is called opposition research. I learned that word. Nobody's doing that. So they were like, what does this lady want? But I was just hoping that somebody would do something, because I was really concerned that he was about to get a new stomping ground. And I said to one group chat, I said, if it doesn't come out by Friday, I am posting. And every lawyer friend and every journalist friend I have was like, as a person, I love that you're so committed to justice. As a friend, I'm going to say, please don't do that. And I literally stopped talking to people who were telling me not to for a while. And I got an umbrella policy on my house. And on March 22nd, I posted my tweet naming him.
You got an umbrella policy on your house because you were afraid you were going to be sued.
Yeah, because I knew that the story had been caught and killed before. And a week before I posted, his chief of staff and now campaign manager texted me saying, hey, I heard you have some pretty serious concerns about our candidate. And I had not named him yet. So I was a little worried that I was going to get hit with something. Because as you know, you could be telling the truth, but anybody can sue you for anything. And you have to defend yourself in a court of law against allegations. So I was like, okay, I'm going to make sure they can't take my house, and then we're going to move on. And I did.
Is there anything that you can share, even anonymously if you can, of what some of the women have told you since you posted the video and about the allegations made against Swalwell?
Yeah, I mean, it's been very touching. And, it's been a lot of like, thank yous, and I feel free, and I feel like I can move on with my life, and things that have just been like I kept saying, all I do is cry. Like, I just was, I've received very, very touching messages from the women who've come forward, including some of the Swalwell Jane Does who they sometimes Cheyenne and I would put people in touch with each other anonymously, so I still don't know who they are, but it's just crazy that I don't know people's names, but we've had such conversations. But what I keep saying to them is like, this wouldn't have happened without you coming forward. There's a very real version of this story where that happened again and nothing would have come of it. And the only reason we're where we are today and we're seeing this like second reckoning of women standing up and saying men cannot rely on our silence anymore, the only reason is because those women came forward. And this through and through has been like a true like women supporting women, like working together. And people can say whatever they want about like a whisper network or gossip. The whisper network is what kept people safe, and now we're like blowing it up.
In 2024, I mean, that presidential campaign was run and won on podcasts, on social media influencers, right? Your kind, your people have become a huge part of politics in a way, and of winning races. So are you going to stay engaged in this way? Like, how do you see your role evolving, especially in a pretty huge election year? Midterms are in November, and then a presidential in just 2 years' time.
And a lot of school board races, by the way.
Well, and you guys had some major news in the LA County school districts as well, which I know that you talked about.
I mean, I personally am like super happy in my little corner. I really believe that I will continue to, if I hear something crazy, I will always, like I said, talk about it. I will always bring it up and bring it to light, just because that's what I just think we should do as human beings. But I would really like to just keep talking to people about public education and like the things that I think are the foundation for progress in our country. And I think my investigative research days are behind me, but it's all connected. It's like, everything we do in this world to try to like strive to make a better future, it's all part of the same kind of work. And I think one thing I hope that not only content creators, but just people take away from this is like, you can stand up for what's right and you can make a difference. I think going into the next election cycles, the fact that there are politicians who are afraid of that, they should probably be afraid of that, because I think we're done keeping their secrets.
Mrs. Frazzled, a.k.a. Arielle Fodor, thank you.
Thank you.
As we have talked about on the podcast, one of the sticking points in the Iran ceasefire has been the ongoing war between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Tuesday, representatives for both Israel and Lebanon met for the first direct talks in over 3 decades. Today, President Trump announced that the countries have reached a deal to stop fighting for 10 days starting tonight, and that he would be inviting Lebanese President Joseph Aoun of Lebanon and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to the White House for quote-unquote meaningful talks. But there are still a lot of open questions about what is in this deal and whether the Iranian proxy group in Lebanon, Hezbollah, which was not party to these talks, is actually going to comply. So I want to bring in NBC News foreign correspondent Matt Bradley, who is on the ground for us in Tel Aviv. Hey, Matt.
Hey, Yasmin.
So I mentioned this, right? The president announced this temporary ceasefire between Lebanon and Israel for 10 days. This ceasefire, obviously separate from the 2-week ceasefire that was put into place between the United States, Israel, and Iran. What do we know about this ceasefire?
Well, a precious little is the short answer. And the fact is that we just know that 5 p.m. deadline when it sounds like the guns are going to go silent. If Israel behaves the way it normally does with these sorts of ceasefires, they will try to jockey for a better position with potentially an explosive bout of violence in the hours leading up to it. But other than that, we don't have much in terms of the actual specifics of what this means. It looks like the Israelis have already said that they're not going to be withdrawing their forces. And according to people that I've been speaking to, it looks as though there's a lot of optimism on all sides, except for the Israeli far right, who wanted to see the Israelis push further into Lebanon and really end Hezbollah once and for all.
So the announcement actually came before the Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, had actually had the ability to review this ceasefire, this agreement with his cabinet. Did the announcement from the president actually put pressure on the prime minister to get it done? And do we know if that was purposeful?
Well, I don't know that, Yasmin, but I can kind of make an educated guess because this is the kind of thing that we've seen Trump's MO for these past couple of ceasefire deals and other arrangements where he sort of railroads the deal through and then basically lets the parties who are party to the deal kind of catch up and sort of latch onto it after the fact. This strategy has worked to great effect because what it does is exactly what you're saying. It puts the ceasefire up front and shames the parties for not agreeing to it. So if you have this ceasefire and you have this president who has negotiated the ceasefire for you, and nobody wants to piss off Donald Trump because they know the consequences, then they're in this very, very difficult position. He did that back with the ceasefire with Iran and Israel. He did that back with the ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. And he did that just most recently, where we saw that there was this ceasefire. President Trump came out and announced it between the United States and Iran. Israel, it didn't sound like, was totally on board with all of the terms of it, particularly that they might stop fighting in Lebanon. So that really was another case of Trump putting the cart before the horse. And it does seem to be deliberate for sure, because it has been effective.
So Netanyahu has repeatedly said that this war in Lebanon is not about the Lebanese, it's not about the Lebanese government, really. It's about Hezbollah, right? It's fighting against Hezbollah. Hezbollah was not in the room for these negotiations. In fact, we have heard the current Lebanese government repeatedly say they actually want to get rid of Hezbollah in their country as well. Do we know if Hezbollah was read in on this agreement? Are they a part of this agreement?
Oh, yeah. And I spoke with a senior Hezbollah official just now, got off the phone with him, and he was very happy about the agreement. And he assured me that they had had a role in the negotiations the entire time. There was never a part of this where they weren't involved. The fact that we're seeing this agreement between Lebanon and Israel, you think to yourself, well, those aren't the main combatants. But the fact is that this deal and the way that this is done, this is actually normally how it's done. The deal is between Lebanon and Israel. This was how it was done back in November of 2024, the last time there was a U.S.-mediated ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon. That deal ended the fighting, on the Hezbollah side at least, for well more than a year, and it was effective. And Hezbollah didn't have their name on the document, and that's because that's just kind of how this is done. So it's a complicated set of maneuvers and diplomacy. But again, this has worked in the past. It worked again today, so it's a decent model.
But doesn't Hezbollah want Israel to pull out as part of the deal out of southern Lebanon? And Netanyahu has said they're not doing that. So will they leave?
They did last time after November 2024, but this time the Israelis have a new doctrine that guides a lot of their warfare all along their very, very restive borders, which is that they do not want to let any militant group sidle up to Israel's borders and sit there. This is one of the things that they learned, and what I've been hearing over and over again from all manner of officials here in Israel. The new doctrine is they're not going to let Hezbollah sit on the border. They're not going to let Hamas sit on the borders of Gaza. Now, this, in the way it looks like territorial expansion, and that's exactly what we saw in Lebanon. That's what we've been seeing in the West Bank, and it's what we see now in the Gaza Strip. So it looks as though the Israelis are pushing past those borders, and that is exactly what they're doing, and likely what they're going to be continuing to do in Lebanon. And they're going to say that they're doing it for security reasons, but this could continue to exacerbate the conflict and undermine the ceasefire. The fact is that after that November 2024 agreement, Israel hit targets in Lebanon that they said were Hezbollah targets on average every single day for more than a year. So while I said that ceasefire did keep Hezbollah from firing at Israel for quite a long time, Israel kept firing at Hezbollah and did so with some consistency.
What does this mean for the bigger deal, right? Because part of the big sticking point for Iran, in addition to the Strait of Hormuz and other things, was the continued attacks on Lebanon and Hezbollah, right? We are coming up on the 2-week mark of the ceasefire between Iran, Israel, and the United States. Could this help either extend that ceasefire or find a permanent end to the war?
I mean, I would say that this is the off-ramp that everybody needs. This is exactly what everybody wants. If Israel is able to keep its side of the bargain, if Hezbollah sticks with the deal, this could really mean that there could be a move forward in those negotiations for a lasting ceasefire between Iran on the one side and Israel and the United States on the other. And all of that is really just the beginning. If this deal goes through between Hezbollah and Israel and Lebanon, we've already seen in Washington this week almost unprecedented meetings between diplomats from Lebanon and from Israel, meeting in Washington, hosted by the Trump administration, talks that could actually lead to a normalization agreement between Israel and Lebanon. This is the holy grail for the Israelis. This would be a crowning point for Benjamin Netanyahu's legacy and a big boost for him going into these elections coming up, particularly since, while this war against Iran was very popular, the ceasefire was not very popular here. So getting a deal, a more permanent deal with Lebanon, that would put Hezbollah very much in the backseat or see them disarmed, which seems very unlikely, that would be a big boon for the Israelis.
Matt Bradley, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that is going to do it for us. Here's the scoop from NBC News. We'll be back tomorrow with whatever the day may bring. And if you like what you heard and you saw, press the subscribe button. We'll see you tomorrow.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.